Hey everyone, Video Game Lover here, and with a quick little response video for Jluv. Before I start that, I did pick up some games for the thrift store, but I'll show that off on Christmas. So, Jluv did a video of games that she liked better on the Super Nintendo. So I decided to share you guys 4 games that I like better on the Super Nintendo than the Genesis. So I guess you could say this is kind of like a follow-up to that one Genesis video I did a month ago. There is one game in particular that I don't own, but as an honorable mention, it'll be Sunset Riders. I think Sunset Riders on the Super Nintendo is better than the Genesis version. So without further ado, let's begin, and we'll start off with Mortal Kombat 2. This is kind of a no-brainer why I prefer Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo than the Genesis version. It's for one, the Super Nintendo version looks a lot better than the Genesis version. It's just more true to the arcade in terms of gameplay and graphics. While I do like the soundtrack of the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 2 and some of its gameplay elements, I just think the Super Nintendo version is just much better and more closer to the arcade version. The soundtrack is really good, the gameplay is very good and responsive, and it even included the character ending portraits of the characters when you beat the game, which was not present in the Genesis or even the 32X version. This is definitely one of the best versions of Mortal Kombat 2 back from the 1990s, and one that I definitely love on the Super Nintendo, and I feel it's better than the Genesis version. The second game that I picked that I like better on the Super Nintendo than the Genesis, Batman Returns. For me, when it comes to Batman Returns, I feel the Super Nintendo version is just better than the Genesis version in about every aspect. The Genesis version to me was really bad. For one, it's actually different than the Super Nintendo version. The Genesis version was more of a platformer, it looked very dark, the controls weren't responsive, and it was just not a good game at all. This version is made by Konami, and it's just a beat-em-up game, and it plays very well. You can argue it's kind of like Final Fight, but I just think it plays very well for a Batman game. It has that gritty feel. It's based on the movie Batman Returns. The music is fantastic. The graphics are really well made. And I feel like this is one of the best beat-em-ups on the Super Nintendo, next to Turtles in Time, Ninja Warriors, and Sonic Blast Man 2. It's just lots of fun with this game. It can be a little bit challenging, but this is one I highly recommend, and it's pretty cheap on the Super Nintendo, so definitely check this one out. The third game that I like better on the Super Nintendo than the Genesis is Magical Quest 2: The Great Circus Mystery. This might surprise a lot of people because, believe it or not, Magical Quest 2, aka Circus Mystery on the Super Nintendo, was actually also released for the Sega Genesis. It's really the only Capcom Mickey Mouse game that was on the Sega Genesis. The reason I do believe the Super Nintendo version is way better is the sound alone. The sound of the Sega Genesis version is not very good at all. I feel Capcom kind of struggled with the sound chip of the Sega Genesis, and I feel that the sound alone of the Super Nintendo version makes it better. This game in particular, I recommend. It plays just like the first Magical Quest game, and it's overall a overlooked game on the Super Nintendo. I would really make sure you pick this game up if you have the chance. It's a pretty fun game for the Super Nintendo. The fourth and last game that I prefer on the Super Nintendo than the Genesis is World Heroes. Last up we have World Heroes, and personally the reason I believe the Super Nintendo version is better than the Genesis version is, for one, I think the sound is better, and number two, in my opinion, is the Genesis version suffers from collision detection problems where your punches won't land right, and it's just overall not a very good version. The Super Nintendo version is better, but it's not really saying a whole lot because the game is just very, very slow and kind of clunky at times. I only would recommend this game if you're a die-hard fighting game. I mean, I'm pretty sure World Heroes Arcade is way better, but this version is just okay. It's not the best, but it's not the worst, and I do feel it's better than the Sega Genesis version of World Heroes. And those are my 4 games that I like on the Super Nintendo more than the Genesis. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!